You're watching South Asia Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 12th of August. Indian citizens come together for nationwide Tricolour rallies. India condemns Pakistan crackdown in POJK. And UNESCO calls for Afghan girls' education to resume. And now for all the details. A sea of saffron, white and green is sweeping across India. With August 15 just days away, communities, students and officials are coming together in nationwide Tricolour rallies to celebrate the country's 80th Independence Day. In Doda, Jammu and Kashmir, hundreds of students marched through the town carrying a striking 40-foot-long national flag. The rally moved towards the sports stadium with students chanting slogans and waving smaller tricolours along the way. In Gujarat's Gandhinagar, Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel led another flag rally, drawing large participation from residents. And in Kolkata, a Tricolour rally brought another burst of patriotic colour to the city, with participants marching through the streets carrying the national flag. India gained independence from British rule on August 15, 1947. As the country approaches its 80th Independence Day, the nationwide rallies are bringing together people across regions and generations in a shared celebration of the national flag, freedom and national identity.
सबसे ज़्यादा खुशी की बात यह है कि हम इंडिया में रहते हैं, हमारा इतना अच्छा देश है, हम इस देश में रह रहे हैं, हम किस्मत वाले हैं, डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री में रह रहे हैं, हम इंडिपेंडेंट हो गए, मगर बहुत मजा आया आज की तिरंगा रैली में हमें.
And US Presidential Counsellor Peter Navarro on Tuesday said President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi share a very good working relationship and will resolve differences over India's purchase of Russian oil. Speaking to ANI, Navarro said the issues surrounding Russian oil had already been addressed. He stressed that disagreements between India and the US should be resolved through dialogue. His remarks come amid heightened scrutiny of India's energy ties with Russia. The US Senate last week passed a bipartisan bill that could authorize President Donald Trump to levy tariffs on up to 100% on goods from countries including India and China that continue importing Russian oil and gas, maintaining that such trade helps sustain Moscow's economy and fund its military operations in Ukraine. The bill also proposes additional sanctions targeting Russian officials, financial institutions, energy projects and oil tankers allegedly used to bypass restrictions. India increased its procurement of discounted Russian crude following the Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022 to secure national energy requirements during global market turmoil.
With respect to your question, the President and your Prime Minister have a very good working relationship. They are going to work that out amongst themselves, and it's not for me and a gaggle to get between that. All right.
Meanwhile, India has stepped up its criticism of Pakistan over the situation in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, calling for international accountability over reported human rights violations and deaths during the protests. We have a report.
India is calling on the international community to hold Pakistan accountable over gross human rights violations in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. At a media briefing, India's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal said more than 90 people have reportedly been killed in recent months during a crackdown on protesters.
We continue to follow developments across the world. At the same time, I would like to highlight that we have seen the kind of human rights violations that were committed in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and other parts of that country. We call upon the international community to hold Pakistan accountable for its misdeeds, for its abuses, and for flagrant violation or gross violation of human rights.
The unrest in POJK has also affected the 2026 Legislative Assembly elections, with voting disrupted in parts of the Poonch division amid security concerns, road closures, and an internet blackout. India's Foreign Ministry spokesperson also said that public discontent in the region has been met with repression and the use of force. India's comments come amid months of protests, clashes and allegations of excessive use of force in the region. India says the international community must take note of the reported violence and press Pakistan to ensure accountability.
And the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization on Tuesday said that more than 2 million girls in Afghanistan have been stopped from continuing their education beyond the primary school level since the Taliban's return to power 5 years ago. The international body called for the full restoration of the right to education, warning the Afghanistan's ban is causing irreversible harm and decades of lost potential of an entire generation. It noted that Afghanistan remains the only country in the world to formally prohibit access to education for girls and women beyond the primary level. According to a statement issued by the UN body on Tuesday, the restrictions are having serious consequences on the well-being, mental and physical health of girls and women, while also increasing the risk of early marriage. The ban on female teachers teaching boys has further worsened the teacher shortages and threatens the quality of education for all students. UNESCO condemned the ongoing systemic discrimination and understood the human toll of this enforced silence, declaring that the ban directly threatens the mental and physical well-being of young women, heightens the risk of child marriage, and deepens poverty in a country where nearly half the population lives below the poverty line.
Since day one, we have been speaking about a generational gap through this educational banning. According to the estimate we have, today, 2.4 million girls have now been excluded and banned from accessing secondary education since 2021. This number shows clearly a 200,000 addition since last school year that we had reported. This is the number of girls who finished primary education with success and actually could have continued to secondary education, but unfortunately, because of the current policies by de facto authorities, they can't.
Moving on, Sri Lanka's central bank is keeping a close watch on inflation, but for now, policymakers see no major deviation from the path they had forecast. Governor P. Nandalal Weerasinghe says the bank had anticipated inflation would approach 7% in the short term, a projection that has now largely materialized. The central bank surprised markets in May with a 100 basis point interest rate increase, its first rate hike in more than 3 years. Weerasinghe says the unusually large increase was deliberate as policymakers sought to get ahead of expected inflationary. Weerasinghe says the unusually large increase was deliberate as policymakers sought to get ahead of expected inflationary pressures. Sri Lanka's key inflation index rose to 7.3% in July, its highest annual increase in 3 years, driven largely by higher energy prices. Some analysts expect inflation could climb as high as 8% in November. But the governor says the latest numbers remain broadly consistent with the central bank's earlier projections, which anticipated inflation touching the upper end. The bank is therefore signaling a cautious approach to further rate changes. With Sri Lanka's economy still relying on an IMF-backed recovery, the central bank faces a delicate balancing act.
Any decision going forward for us to tighten or loosen will be based on whether we are going to see realizing a deviated path from what we initially expected. So far, we are not seeing that.
And the bodies of 3 Nepalese mountaineers killed in the Broad Peak Avalanche have been brought back to Kathmandu, where grieving families gathered to receive them. A candlelight vigil was also held in Islamabad as rescuers continue efforts to recover the 3 climbers whose bodies remain on the mountain. We have a report.
The bodies of 3 Nepalese mountaineers killed in an avalanche on Pakistan's Broad Peak were brought back to Kathmandu on Tuesday for final rites. Their coffins, draped in national flags, were received by grieving relatives and members of the public at Tribhuvan International Airport. The climbers were part of a 10-member expedition led by renowned British Nepali mountaineer Nirmal Purja. An avalanche struck the team on July 30th, killing 6 Nepalese climbers along with members from Oman, Pakistan, China, Britain, and the United States. Meanwhile, a candlelight vigil was also held in Islamabad to honor all 10 climbers killed in the tragedy. The gathering was attended by diplomats, mountaineers, and members of civil society.
We have all gathered here today to pay tribute to the world's 10 best climbers who lost their precious lives during the avalanche on 30th of July, which was very unfortunate. The world lost 10 of its best climbers, and Nepal lost 6 in a single day. They were the best leading climbers from Nepal, and the whole nation is mourning their loss at the moment.
Officials informed that 7 bodies had been recovered, including all 6 Nepalese climbers, while 3 bodies remain on the mountain. Severe weather repeatedly prevented helicopter operations, forcing rescuers to recover the bodies on foot. At 8,051 meters, Broad Peak is the world's 12th highest mountain and lies in Pakistan's Karakoram range near K2. Avalanches, falling ice, extreme altitude and rapidly changing weather are common hazards in the region.
We lost 10 great climbers in this tragedy, and out of them we have already been able to recover 7 dead bodies which have been transported to their native countries. Still, 3 dead bodies are there on the slopes of Broad Peak, which include one Pakistani by the name of Suhail Sakhi, another one from the US, Mallory Guys, and the third one is a climber from the Nepal.
That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.